Greetings and salutations, and shall we say, better late than never at all. And when you are here at Hoagies and Hops, it doesn't matter when you arrive. The bottom line is that you are at the very best when it comes to dining on the north side of Indianapolis, dining anywhere in Indianapolis. And with Bailey & Wood as our presenting sponsor, it is always good to carry their name as well. An honor and a pleasure to do so. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever it may be when you're watching. My name is Jake Query. This is Greg Rakestraw. In for the once again vacationing Derek Schultz. He's on that, it's on a couple's cruise, isn't that right?
I translated that as a swingers trip to Mexico. Is that correct?
That's what I said.
White Rock Airlines took him down there?
It is.
Yeah. Sorry, Ashley.
Plenty of pineapple margaritas for the kids down in Mexico.
Not to stereotype or anything, but I mean, Derek's chest hair does kind of translate to that style of living,
do you
right?
think he's wearing a tracksuit with
gold change, and it's zipped down to about his navel, absolutely.
So Larry from Three's Company, better known as Derek Schultz, is down in Mexico. So we're at Hoagies and Hops for this edition of Query Company, brought to you by Bailey and Wood. Of course, Chateau Kitchens, IU, Indy, all involved as well. Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water, a number of different sponsors, and we're always happy to have them. Let's begin with this, Greg Rakestraw. The Colts are now finding themselves in a position where they had a situation where they were the number one seed in the AFC, and we kept saying, if the playoffs begin today, but they don't, when they were 7-1. They have now dropped 3 of their last 4 games. They sit at 8-4, but more specifically, the health. Now, let's get to this, Greg, and I don't know the answer to this, and I'm going to ask you if you do know the answer or have heard any rumbling of this. It's probably somewhat irrelevant, but it's of interest. When do we believe that Daniel Jones suffered this injury?
It's a great question because he did not pop onto the injury report until the Thursday before the Kansas City game. So I don't know if it was during the Falcons game.
And at that time, it was just a calf injury.
Right, it was listed as fibula, and that is how they have phrased it. And obviously then I think it was Ian Rappaport that had the report in terms of the fracture of a leg, but one that you could kind of play through. But that Thursday, so after the bye, the Thursday going into the Chiefs game is when it appeared. So again, common sense would tell you maybe in the Berlin game a week and a half earlier. I have no idea.
Yeah, and the reason I ask it is because, and maybe there's something that goes into the power of suggestion.
Right. But
in the Kansas City game, you watch that game, and I think when Daniel Jones, if there were issues in terms of, and I'm going to use the word escapability, but Daniel Jones just not being totally comfortable in the pocket, I think the easy thought process was Pittsburgh put together a blueprint.
Right.
Atlanta went with it as well, which was just rush up front and get him uncomfortable. And, oh, gosh, he's regressing with a PTSD to the days in New York when he's running for his life. Then you could go back. It was like the movie The Sixth Sense. Once you knew there was the injury to Daniel Jones, then you go back and you go, now it makes sense.
You're hearing Haley Joel Osment say, I see dead people in your head right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
And there's a red doorknob there.
You're watching it, and you're like, okay, no, wait a minute. When he stepped out here, when he did that, like those things now make sense. Excuse me. And so in that Kansas City game, I think we can now look and say he was playing with this injury that then we now know full bore what it is, which is essentially, and Ralph Reif, mutual friend of both of us. I had Ralph Reif on my radio show, and he explained it very well. And he, again, not speaking specifically to the case of Daniel Jones.
But in generality, what a fibula injury could be.
Right. And he was saying, listen, this is, in fact, the fibula. I love the way that he said this. And I'm saying this for those out there.
Did he drop a tib fib on you at some point in time?
Here's what he dropped, which I love. The tibula is the big shin bone, right?
Yes.
The fibula is the bone that's a little sidecar that rides along.
Mm-hmm.
So
the riding mechanic in the early days of the
exactly
8500.
Correct.
Yes.
And so basically what he was saying is the fibula is the bone that if there is a chip that is off of it, it does not affect the affectability, if you will, the effectiveness of the bone. But it becomes extremely painful, and it causes you to have limitation in the way that you cut, plant your foot, etc. I thought we saw that with Daniel Jones.
Right.
And, Greg, the reality is I don't know for the rest of the year that we see Daniel Jones get an opportunity to revert back to what we saw the first handful of the games of the season where his mobility was what was riding this offense. So they are now in a tough spot.
There are 2 plays in the Kansas City game that unfortunately tipped the Colts' hand and tipped Daniel Jones' hand. And there is the scramble where he got the first down where instead of cutting inside to get more yardage, he immediately took the exit ramp after he got the first down. and he also ran at a speed that would be akin to my level. You're like, wait a minute, there's 15 yards in this play. He got 5 and got it, which, again, is the wise thing to do given the fact you're playing injured. But the other thing, and then we'll fast forward to this week, in overtime, on 3rd and 1, instead of him going with a quarterback sneak, it is hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. Oftentimes that play is successful. That play lost 2 yards. You kick it away. Chiefs drive, field goal, ball game. 20-9 lead evaporates. So those are the 2 plays you can point back to and kind of Zapruder film that game and go, all right, yeah, there's something here. So obviously now you get to 4th and 1 at the 9-yard line, and you bring in Tyler Warren to run that quarterback sneak, which, again, Colts fans, he did a lot of that. Did a lot of Wildcat quarterback at Penn State. He played quarterback as a high school athlete, so it's not uncommon for him. The Colts just haven't needed to do it since the first week or 2 of the season. He bobbles the snap. You turn it over on downs. Now, again, that play, immediately Cam Bynum got a pick. Colts would score. So that play didn't have a massive impact on the game. But, again, there's what coaches tell you, and there's what your eyeballs tell you. And those plays right there tell you exactly what you're saying is spot on. You have to work around that now, Jake, for the rest of the year.
The bullet was dodged on that 4th and 1, and it's kind of an inconsequential thing. But building forward, right, if you were to take an example, I still go back to this, Greg, and I'm not saying I'm right, but it's a mountain I'm going to die on. When you have Jonathan Taylor in your backfield and you have Quentin Nelson, who you're paying $20 million a year to on the left side, and you have 4th and a half a yard or 4th and a yard, you hand it to that guy and you go right behind Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
Every time. You don't have to get overly cute with it. But nonetheless, for me, the play that was of note for the Colts in the game that we just saw against the Houston Texans was play number 2. And I said play number 2 on both sides of the ball told me a lot in terms of really ugly foreshadowing. For the Colts offensively, play number 2, second play of the game. Daniel Jones drops back. Immediately it was a busted play. You could tell it. And it's not uncommon that in that situation a quarterback realizes, you know what, that everything's FUBAR here. I'm going to throw the ball down and we're just going to reset. But when that happened, whether it was the cause of it or whether it was just my mind's the power of suggestion, when that happened, I immediately thought to myself, this is troublesome, Greg, because he dropped back. I think they were kind of trying to maybe do a bubble screen or something, and the play broke down. But there was no thought at all of escaping the pocket and trying to salvage something out of it. That option was not there for him, so he simply threw the ball down. And right then I said to myself, and he's a good thrower, don't get me wrong, but I said to myself, what makes this guy different, what makes him, what is his skill set, what is his superpower, is the fact that he does have decent legs when a play breaks down and can extend plays for you. And that now has been taken away from him.
I would agree with that. And the other play that has been super successful for this team, you can't really do it, is that boot in terms of where you're going to have that run pass option, but really you're going to fake the run the ball left. He peels out right. You've got Downs or Warren, and that play has gotten 8, 9, 10, 15 yards on a regular basis for this football team. And because of his lack of mobility, that play is now out of the window.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So where the Colts now are and where they find themselves, they have a new kicker. We'll get into that. But they now have the meat of their schedule. Speaking of the meat, I mean, like Hoagies and Hops, right? The sandwiches you get here, you get into it, and the meat, and you're like, this is why I come here. This is why this sandwich is the best. The Colts, on the other hand, when you get into the meat of the schedule, doesn't necessarily mean that it's what you are enjoying about it. It's a little bit of the opposite of that. But because of the fact that the schedule now gets real, you go down to Jacksonville, which has been a house of horrors. You still have Jacksonville at home on the schedule. And the Jags are tricky. The thing to me, Greg, that is peculiar is if you put yourself in position now where it comes down to it in the AFC, in the log jam of teams in the AFC that are all kind of in that area of average to slightly above average, it's going to come down perhaps to needing to finish strong. And for the Colts, that's going to be a challenge because they've got to go to Houston. Now, maybe Houston at that point has something secured. Who knows, right? But you throw in the fact that you got the 2 Houston game or the 1 Houston game, you got the 2 Jacksonville games, and then Seattle and San Francisco. So they're just, it seems as though each and every week now, real challenges for them.
Thought you were going to make a Huey Lewis reference there. Seattle, San Francisco, too. I thought that was the reference you were going to make. See, you're working, and again, okay, I hate to burst the bubble. Schultz, from a musical standpoint, often plays down.
Everywhere there's music.
Sometimes he
Real
does.
live music.
Well, see, you followed it up. You were a topper. Nicely done. Schultz is not as bad on music as he thinks he is, but again, you're working with somebody of a similar age that gets those references. The way I would describe the Colts was this, Jake. Have they been terrible? No. But are they as good as they were the first 8 games of the season? Obviously not.
Right.
And nobody has the finishing kick to their schedule that the Indianapolis Colts do. What was an opportunity when the season began now is almost an albatross, because we said, hey, if you're just in the divisional mix, you've got 4 of your last 6 games against divisional foes. You can take care of business. You can be the AFC South champ. You can get that first home game at Lucas Oil for a playoff game since 2014. And that is still a factual statement. But now we're like, man, look who they have to finish with. Where legitimately you could say your last 6 games of the season are all against playoff teams. And if that is a factual statement, that probably means the Colts aren't a playoff team,
right.
because they lose at those teams' expense.
And again, Greg, to me, yes, the Colts are not the same team that they were when they were 7-1.
Yep.
I mean, we can say that. At the same time, and I'm not saying this to carry their water or curry favor or anything else, there's not a huge crime in that, though. The reality is, and we forget this in Indianapolis because more often than not, we see with Colts teams in this town, we see the Peyton Manning teams that are good from flag to flag,
sure,
wire to wire. We see the Andrew Luck teams that were competitive from wire to wire. Or we see the rest of the Colts history, which is they suck from wire to wire. There's very little in between. The reality is in the NFL that most teams have ebb and flow. 17 weeks is a long time.
Yes.
A long time. And teams change complexities, and teams change roster, and teams change the way and the style that they play and their competitiveness oftentimes once or twice over the course of a season. This is the reality of the NFL, and it's why, for the most part, the NFL is the most popular sport in America, because you never feel like your team is totally out, and if they are dominating, you're always looking over your shoulder because you never know when it might change.
Correct. And again, now what I want to see from the Colts is kind of changing a game plan. There were things you were doing that made sense when all the pieces were 100%. In other words, now if you win the toss, defer. Now make sure it's, throw to score, run to win. Well, you kind of got to run to stay alive at this point. And in a normal scenario, we're saying, hey, maybe you got to thin down the workload on Jonathan Taylor. Because think about this, Jake. Where is DJ Giddens? He has barely dressed for the last 5 or 6 weeks.
And we were really high on him at the beginning of the year.
Amir Abdullah has done a couple of nice things and love the plays he's making on special teams. But the backup running back, I mean, seriously, did Amir Abdullah get 1 offensive snap, maybe 2 in the game, and every other snap was Jonathan Taylor? So normally we go, hey, man, you're getting to week 13 or week 14. You might want to dial it back a bit for him. And I'm saying the exact opposite.
Right.
It's probably time to make sure, hey, he's got to have 25,
now, right?
30 touches.
Yeah.
And again, you've got to put even more weight on him, knowing that literally and figuratively, you got to try to take some weight off of Daniel Jones to nurse this injury to get him through the rest of the season.
Yeah, and Taylor can be used in 2 different ways.
Yeah,
Greg. The thought process when you're 7-1 is that Taylor's the guy that salts clock away from you and puts games away, right? Now, I think Taylor is the guy that you've got to use basically to keep the ball out of the opposition's hand. Kansas City was able in the second half, we talked about it, to come back in that game because the Colts couldn't get any traction offensively and the defense never got a chance to catch their breath.
Right.
And they were just constantly out there. Taylor takes care of that for you. So, yes, he becomes, not that he wasn't already, he becomes their most important player here down the stretch.
He has to be the MVP of the league, seemingly, for the Colts to be successful the last 5 weeks. It has to be him. And 21 carries, 85 yards was solid, and I'm not blaming JT for anything. And I forget what he had. We had 36 yards, I think, receiving in the game. And he's been better in terms of blitz pickup, pass blocking, and catching passes than he ever has been in his 6 years in the league. But it's got to be borderline what the offense was in 87 for Eric Dickerson. Eric left, Eric right, Eric up the middle.
Eric for 4, Eric for 5, incomplete pass, punt.
Right. Well, hopefully you avoid the third down issue. That's when you get, JT for 2 and make it happen.
3 of 10 in third down efficiencies on Sunday. I mean, you're going to improve that right now. When the Colts do score, or when they get in the red zone and a play stalls out and you need a field goal. New guy coming out onto the field kicking for the Colts. Michael Badgley was released. That took place on Tuesday. We are filming this on Wednesday morning, and it was not long after that. It was 2 or 3 hours after that when, boom, they had themselves a new kicker. And it's a guy that's used to kicking in the state of Indiana.
Blake Groupie is the new kicker for the Indianapolis Colts. Did I say his name right?
He has worked with several bands in the 80s.
He was almost famous.
That's right.
You could say.
He's a groupie.
He played a couple of years with the New Orleans Saints, was waived by the Saints this offseason, played at Notre Dame, and in fact, Brian Mason coached him in 2022 at Notre Dame. And what stat did I immediately check? What his extra points were. So his extra points in the National Football League, 86 for 88 is what he was able to do.
That's solid.
Yeah.
That's what you want, right?
That's less misses than Michael Badgley had in the last 2 months.
Okay, Greg, one of the names that is going to come up because he was apparently in the building.
Yeah.
And that is of one of the most prolific kickers in the history of the game in Justin Tucker, who was worked out, but the Colts opted to go away from that. I understand that. I understand it because, and I go back to, and I understand why Colts fans are going to look at Justin Tucker and say, this guy, it's a lot like fantasy sports. Oftentimes when you're sitting in your fantasy draft and you're looking at it and you're going, we're in round 7 and DeAndre Hopkins is available. This is awesome. Anquan Bolden's there. I'm taking him. Because in your mind, you're thinking about that player from 5 or 6 years ago. There's no doubt that a kicker has a longevity that other positions don't. And there's no doubt that Justin Tucker over the course of his career has been one of the most accurate, strongest leg, prolific, dynamic kickers in the history of the National Football League. But he finds himself out of football. He found himself suspended because of very ugly allegations against him. And while, yes, he has served his time. Yes, he has served his penalty for that. I go back to, Greg, when Tony Dungy talked about the drafting of a player, and I won't say specifically the case of the player, but I remember Tony Dungy saying, with any player that you acquire, you look at what they bring to your program, your franchise, your roster, and then you weigh it against what detriment or what external noise they might bring. If they bring external noise that is louder than the vocals of what they bring that are positive, then you stay away from it. I think that was the case here.
It's the Tim Tebow, Colin Kaepernick backup quarterback theory, right?
Yes.
You are willing to live with the distraction if it is a player you can't live without.
Correct.
And typically as a kicker, that is not the case. So I would almost spin this a different way, and hopefully we are not 4 or 5 weeks away from the end of the season, but 7 or 8 weeks away from the end of the season. That what we thought was going to be a deep January run maybe isn't looking as certain as it used to be. But when we look and we do the autopsy of this year in terms of most important injuries, Spencer Schrader's injury is looking a lot higher up the depth chart than we thought it was going to be when it happened, right?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
And the two things that jump out at me, I have always felt, especially in the NFL more than any other league, when you do the autopsy, to use your word, of a team's season, and we're not there yet, I get it.
Right.
But for every franchise but one, it takes place where you end your year with a loss.
Yeah.
Every time that happens, you look back and you say, what cost this team the game in their final loss of the season was a microcosm of what had hurt them over the course of the year. And in the case of this team, that's going to be, to your point, probably the lack of mobility of the quarterback, and then we'll see what the consistency from the kicking position, and also inconsistency of pass rush. I mean, those things. But at the same time, Greg, there are like 8 other teams that all have very clear deficiencies as well, which leads you to believe the Colts, crazy as it may be, you can sit here and say, yeah, the deep January run doesn't look as certain as it did a month ago, and I agree with that. But at the same time, it also feels just as plausible because who jumps out at you in the AFC? Who jumps out at you?
There's no perfect team in the National Football League. Not even close to that. I mean, the Patriots have the best record and, in theory, are the best team. They're 11-2. We like their head coach in Mike Vrabel, but they are so young at so many positions, you have no idea
and I'll be honest,
how they're going to react.
How many Patriots can you name?
Drake May,
They just
Stephon Diggs,
they're very nondescript.
Ramondre
really
Stevenson, because he fumbles a lot.
Yeah, he had a
and that's what I got for you.
I mean, honestly, they
seriously.
are the anonymous version. They're basically what people would be saying about Indianapolis if the Colts were still.
We will find a way to hate them soon enough. Believe me,
you're right.
That will be.
But you know what, Greg? I'll be honest with you. If the Patriots continue wearing those red jerseys with
harder to hate them, right?
Harder to hate.
Kind of like Kentucky when Pitino was there. They played such a damn fun style. You're like, God, I hate saying it's like watching Kentucky play. Yeah.
And like they're wearing the uniforms of the Patsies, right? They're wearing the uniforms of it reminds you of Steve Grogan and Tony Eason. You're like, yeah, okay.
There were some real knockdown, drag out, limp wristed sissy fights in the days between the Patriots and the Colts early '90s. Were not?
There were, yes. And that was one of those in the dome. 3-10 New England.
9-6 your final score. Thanks for joining us for exciting NFL action.
But the helmets looked great.
Right.
But nonetheless, Buffalo, the teams that you think of as the creme de la creme within the AFC, I still in my mind, again, branding, right? Precedent. I still think of Kansas City as this legit threat. They're not at this point.
They're not in the playoffs right now.
Buffalo, you see it. You see Josh Allen make a play, but then you're like, yeah, but look at all they've got to do just to get into position, right?
So two things immediately come to mind. A, part of the reason, and in addition to what we're talking about this season, almost with a potential past tense sort of vibe to it, is just simply mathematics. And that is if there's a lot of bad teams on the back end of the conference, the Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, the Titans, mathematically, those numbers have to balance out. In other words, a lot of teams with really good records.
Right.
I'm not sure I don't think a 9-win team is making the postseason this year. There is a chance you have to have 11 wins to make the postseason. You have to go 11-6. Somebody tells you postseason your team's 11-6, you're like 1/2 of our games. That's pretty good.
Right.
You might be the 7th seed being an 11-win team this year. In other words, Colts probably need to go at least 3-2 to ensure the fact they're a playoff team, because when this season started, before they had this great run, you and I were both, I think, on the high side of what this team could be. I said, I think this team's ceiling is a 10-win team.
They still, Greg,
right?
I could be wrong in this. They still are the highest scoring team in the NFL.
Correct, even though they have obviously struggled the last 2 weeks, yes.
So that shows you
right.
the pace, the blistering pace
Correct.
they got off to.
That's how good they were.
But that personnel's a little bit different. Now, obviously, the Colts are not the only big story when it comes to football in the city of Indianapolis and when it comes to playoffs and everything else. And whoever would have guessed it?
Yeah.
Whoever would have guessed it? That we are sitting here right now talking about undefeated Ohio State and undefeated Indiana. And we've got to get into that and break down the Big Ten championship game and what it means for the college football playoffs as well. And a ton to get to because we still have our hero of the week from Hoagies and Hops. We still have to get to Biter Bowl Schultz from Chateau Kitchens. We still have to, of course, get to our IU Indy Jags report, let you know what's going on there. So we've got a ton to get to on this, the Derekless edition, once again, which seems now like almost the norm, is it not?
I think I'm on like a retainer fee at this point, kind of like a permanent sub.
Derek is DJ Giddens, right? Like we know he's here, but we're not sure exactly where. Nonetheless, we have plenty to get to. Jake, Query, Greg Rakestraw, right back here at Hoagies and Hops, brought to you by Bailey and Wood. It is Query and Schultz, and you're watching it on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Hoagies and Hops Chili Water. We are right here at, I always forget, is it 40 Witch and Boulevard?
42nd and Boulevard.
42nd and Boulevard. It is super cool. And, this time of year, this is the best thing about this time of year. And I'm not necessarily a fan of Mother Nature accentuating it this early for us, but the snow, the ice, the cold. What do you think about when you think about holiday get-togethers, whether it be Christmas, whether it be Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you might celebrate, or just get-togethers in general at the end of the year, New Year's? When you think about it, you think about people coming in like and gathering together and the warmth of being around yours, right? Being around your peeps. That's what this time of year is about. And so when you come into a place like Hoagies and Hops or Chili Water or any of them, and you see just looking over it, the beauty and the aesthetics of the snow and everything else, it means come inside and get warm and hang out. And that's exactly what you get from the Santa-ria, which is the Mexican lager from Chili Water. Absolutely fabulous.
I went with because obviously they decided to go with the
Santa on it,
with
right?
the design. So hence, yes,
Cheers.
we have so much in the way of pre-show planning here that I have 30 seconds to get from this seat. And frankly, of the two of us, I'm not exactly the fleetest of the foot of the two of us, but I'm the closest to the Chili Water dispensary of beers. And I'm trying to figure out, do I want to go with a cider? No. Oh, there's a skeleton with a Santa hat.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to go. And the Santa-ria has been raved about by you and Derek so many times.
So
yes, our Christmas
it's a very
theme.
smooth Mexican lager.
Now, the direction I thought you were going to go on that was that when the gathering of friends, hanging with your peeps, I think as you phrased it, I'm like, they do party trays here. They do catering. So if you want to have the at-home get-together with the folks from Hoagies and Hops, Christina and staff will bring the food to you, or you can come pick it up, and you will be the rock star of your family Christmas gift together if you serve them with love and serve them with Hoagies from Hoagies and Hops.
And, of course, they have a wide array of fabulous heroes sandwiches, whatever it might be here at Hoagies and Hops. I am a huge fan of the Zaire, which is, of course, Zaire Franklin's signature Philly steak and cheese sandwich. You can also get it in the chicken variation, but it does have on it the ketchup and the mustard, which is fabulous. The Always Sunny is great. Which one is your favorite?
Pit Twist. Which is not named after Michael Pittman Jr., but perhaps it should be. It is the Pit Twist, as in the Pittsburgh twist, as in, when Primanti Brothers was in town, they were famous for putting fries on the sandwich and coleslaw on the sandwich. So the Pit Twist is Hers potato chips. See, I've been coming here so long, Jake, I know all the brands of the stuff that they use, which are all like Jersey or Philly-based brands. So they use Hers potato chips, put the coleslaw on with the turkey, the ham, everything else that goes on there from a meat standpoint, and the rolls are just amazing.
They are.
One thing, though, I would not recommend, if you're going to get the Pit Twist, don't eat it in your car, because little pieces of potato chips, don't be like Schultz and leave a trail when you eat.
Bobby Brady, baby.
Either eat that here in the restaurant or leave it wrapped until you get home. Give yourself plenty of table space, because the potato chips are going everywhere. And I know that a lot of folks think of coleslaw as a waste of your time. Generally, I would agree with that.
Yes.
Unless you get it on that sandwich, the blend of it, absolute perfection.
All right.
Wash it down with a Santa-ria
It is.
when
The
you have the
Santa-ria is
opportunity.
fabulous. Okay, so
I love drinking, by the way, before 10 a.m. on this show. It's
before
awesome.
we get to our award in terms of the balance in the Big Ten Championship game, which I think the Heisman Trophy does come to that, more on that in a second, to award our Hero of the Week. And I'm going to go a little bit outside the box here. A little bit outside the box in our Hero of the Week. And when I say it, people are going to go, yeah, come on, you're kissing up here. I'm not. But I think what has been done, let me tell you what I witnessed earlier this week, Monday night.
Okay.
Monday night at like 4:30, it starts snowing, right?
Yeah.
By 4:45, it's like freezing snow, and so I'm looking at it, and I'm planning on going to the Pacers game, and what normally takes me like 20 minutes, I look at it, and I'm going, this is going to take an hour. And it was gridlocked, the roads were gridlocked, and it was like the NBA All-Star Weekend where all of a sudden this snowstorm happened in between like 4:45 and 6:15. The nightmare time for travel in central Indiana and Indianapolis. So I get to the game, and I look up, Greg, and I say to myself, the Pacers are playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Pacers have won 2 in a row, but Cleveland obviously is good. This is last year's Eastern Conference semifinals all over again, and there are 250 people in this arena. And I'm thinking, everybody now has just thrown in the towel on this year because no Halliburton, no Toppin, no Neesmith for the better part of it, no McConnell for the better part of the start of it. Miles Turner's in Milwaukee. It's this huge rebuild, whatever else. And then I realize the seats start filling up. It gets a little bit louder. And by late first, early second quarter, I'm looking around and I'm saying, this is like being at a Miami Heat game instead of the fact that it's not 80 outside, it's sunny.
It's
just a late arriving crowd.
Right.
And the late arriving crowd was because of the traffic, not the team. And late in that game, Greg, I'm looking on the floor and I'm seeing 4 guys. There were 2 players on the floor that played for the Indiana Pacers last year, and one of them was playing for Cleveland, and Thomas Bryant.
Yeah.
And it's a mesh of two-way contracts and G League guys and late signings and guys that you had no idea a month ago were going to be on the roster. But when I watched that team and I realized that people are still invested, people are still cheering for them because they're actually – I'm not saying they're great, but they play together, they play hard, and they seem to have made the proper adjustments to play with what they have to the point where they won 2 games in a row and they're hanging around games and yeah, they're not winning. I get it. But they're competitive and they are staying the course, I think, on what it is this year they need to do. And so my hero of the week, truthfully, is Rick Carlisle because he has to go in and continue executing and game planning and strategizing with players with which he probably had no idea 6 weeks ago he was ever going to even have to talk to them. And yet they're going out there and they are putting out a brand of basketball and a style of play and a cohesion that I think people can get behind, knowing the reality of what this year represents.
And heck, he's cracking jokes with the guys in the Fan Morning Show complaining about the NFL officiating. He's like, hey, Roger Goodell can't touch me. Only Adam Silver can find me.
That's right.
So if you haven't heard the promo, it's his typical dry humor, but it's pretty funny. All right, I will go twofold. I will go one from the Colts game. Good on Alec Pierce. That dude is making himself millions for next year.
No question.
4 catches and I want to say 80-something yards. He averaged 22 yards a catch to lead the league by 5 yards a catch last year. That average is down, but not all that much. But think about the catches he went out and made. High pointing the ball, fighting for a 50-50 ball. Frankly, I think the plan was to let Alec walk at the end of the season, knowing that there's only so many contracts to go around. I don't think this team has that luxury.
Nope.
And again, I try not to get too much into
he's their number 1 wide receiver.
Colts free agency while the season is still going, especially when being a division champ and hosting a playoff game, while not the lock it was a couple of weeks ago, is still very much a reality or possibility. But I will clue you in as to the week after when your Colts season is done, what your show's going to sound like. Here's your debate to get you a calls on a 20-minute segment, start at the 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock hour. Which player do you have to franchise tag if you're the Indianapolis Colts? Is it Daniel Jones or Alec Pierce?
Okay.
That is going to be a very worthwhile discussion. Please, you give a long answer so I can drink more beer.
My answer for that, unfortunately, is not long. The answer is you franchise tag Daniel Jones. And the reason you do it is because it's not about player, it's about the value of replacement. And if Alec Pierce were for some reason to sign elsewhere and leave the Colts, it would be a major blow to their offense. But you do have other weapons. You do have other players at that position that you can, Michael Pittman Jr. is still there. You can use Tyler Warren more in the passing game, be more reliant on that. Josh Downs has shown still that he is a valuable weapon for them. Jonathan Taylor, etc. Daniel Jones, with all due respect to Anthony Richardson, and I feel bad for his injury, but Riley Leonard's not there yet. He's not ready. Daniel Jones, there's too big a drop-off of what the replacement would have to be for Daniel Jones, and that's why he's the one you have to franchise tag.
By the way, they're going to keep Alec Pierce because that's why you trade A.D. Mitchell, because you don't have a spot to put him in.
Correct.
Thinking Downs, Pierce, Pittman are your starting wide receiver core for at least the next 2 years. Anywho, Alec Pierce would be my Colts hero of the week. But to transition us to our next topic that we need to get to, hero of the week's Curt Cignetti.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that.
I mean, good Lord. They are 23-2. And they seemingly are a lock, even with a loss this week, which I'm not so sure that's going to be a loss. And I know what your prediction has been for the last few months is that Indiana loses this game, but gets back to Ohio State and beats them, whether it's a national championship game, semifinal, whatever the case may be. They're going to get not just in the college football playoff for a second year in a row. I think even if they were to lose against Ohio State because of the way the teams are stacking up behind them, Oregon is 5th. Indiana went to Oregon
I know.
and won.
Indiana owns the best win of the season. Greg.
Even with a loss, they would drop to 3 or 4. They're skipping the home playoff round. After this week, they're off for 25 days, and they're playing in a major quarterfinal New Year's Day bowl.
I have a trivia question in relation to Indiana football to put in perspective all of this.
Yes.
That my buddy Rob Whitaker asked me this morning. And I actually am happy to say that I got this without looking it up. But Greg, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Indiana, going into this season, was the losingest program in the history of Division I college football. They had more losses than any program. Now,
which I believe is no longer the case.
Northwestern passed them over the course of this year because Indiana is still sitting on the same number, right? That said, there are now only 4 teams in the Big Ten, 4, that currently have a winning streak against Indiana in football. Those 4 are?
Okay. Trying to think of teams that they have not played in the last couple of years.
One of them is obvious.
That is, it'll be Ohio State.
Ohio State's one.
Okay. They have not played Minnesota the last couple of years. Is Minnesota one?
Minnesota's number 2.
Okay. I would assume
you had to go. You're going with the same strategy that I did.
Right. Teams they have not played. They beat Nebraska last year.
You want a hint?
No. There's only 18 teams. I can figure this out.
Okay. One of them is a team that oddly has just kind of had their number. Like it's been like high-scoring games, and it's like, how did this team drop 52 on them?
Was it Rutgers?
Rutgers is 3.
Okay.
Number 4 was the first one I came up with.
Because they probably haven't played this team yet since they joined the league. They've played Washington, they played Oregon. They haven't played USC since the Rose Bowl in '67.
USC is the 4th.
There you go.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, for Indiana, I'm beginning to become a little bit more concerned about my prediction here. And my prediction was that Ohio State will beat Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, and Indiana will come back and beat Ohio State in the college football playoff. I hope that holds true. And Ohio State fans have been really weird about this inferiority complex about Indiana. And I have to admit, I was overthinking or overlooking or naive to some of the things that Curt Cignetti had said about Ohio State when he first got hired at Indiana, and I forgot that created a little bit of bad blood in Ohio State, which is kind of weird because Ohio State's beaten them for 31 straight years or whatever it might be, and has won national titles and is the best team right now roster-wise in college football. If Ohio State's 2 wide receivers are healthy, it's going to be a real tall task for Indiana. And I think Indiana's outstanding. And I think Indiana's very clearly probably the second best team in the country. But my worry, Greg, is that gap between Ohio State and everybody else, if Ohio State has had a governor on the accelerator to this point, and they turn up the wick now because now is when it matters, then I do think Ohio State probably runs the table here unblemished. I hate saying that with all aspects of it. And their defense is outstanding. But Indiana is the one team that I think can hang with them.
So here is one of the reasons why I like Indiana in the game coming up on Saturday. This is crazy to think that the Big Ten championship game is a trap game for somebody. And when you're the number 1 team in the nation playing the number 2 team in the nation. But for Ohio State, the only bit of negative they have heard since last January has been, still haven't beaten Michigan.
Right.
Still haven't beaten that team up north. And if you're Ohio State, much like Indiana, who we are 99.9% sure is going to skip the 5 through 12 round that Indiana was a part of last year to go play at Notre Dame, we are 1,000% sure that Ohio State, even with a loss on Saturday night, they are off until New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I think we're to the point that Ohio State isn't getting fired up about winning the Big Ten championship game anymore. They're national championships and beating Michigan.
Right.
That is what matters at Ohio State. This is a massive deal for IU. Now, frankly, if they get beat Saturday night,
it is a bigger game for Indiana.
I think you can sweep it under the rug. But I think knowing that this program, and again, like the Big Ten title game has been around for that long, this is the 15th edition, I want to say, of the game in Indianapolis. But I keep going back to a Norman Dale line. If you had said 2 years ago that IU would be playing in the Big Ten championship game, like his line about the state finals, kind of like me and you going to the moon.
Right.
That's what you would say about Indiana football. So I do think, even though it's number 1 versus number 2, it would not surprise me if Ohio State just naturally is overlooking this game a little bit.
While I agree with that, I also wonder about this, and that is Ohio State, is it possible that Ohio State is going to use this game, Greg, to send a message?
Sure.
To fire one across the boat, like to the rest of college football of, guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what? You thought we were sandbagging against Purdue. You thought we weren't overly impressive against, Texas. Well, here we are.
Yeah.
And we just dropped 56 in a Big Ten title game. That kind of thing.
I'm sorry, I was distracted, and believe it or not, it was not by what I heard or saw. It was by pure smell. There's food behind us, isn't there?
There is.
Would you like me just to get up out of the shot now and get it for us? Okay.
Yes. Our hero of the week has arrived, right? But no, I think for Indiana, this game, I understand the Ohio State wanting to send the message because of Cignetti's comments from a year ago, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the Ohio State defense is really good, really stout. And with those receivers healthy, it gives me area of concern for Indiana. I hope Indiana wins, and I hope Indiana runs the table and wins the whole thing. But I'll stand by my prediction only because I was so vociferous about it back in the day. And that is that Ohio State will be your Big Ten champion. Indiana comes back in the national championship, and Indiana beats the Buckeyes to become the unlikeliest of national champion with Curt Cignetti. What do we got working here, Greg?
I have no idea. I mean, clearly it's a hot dog, chili dog of some ilk. So they have been expanding their dog menu here at Hoagies and Hops. So
this is a hot dog.
Yeah.
With a
smells
tangy Coney,
wonderful,
and a bit of a queso.
I will tap dance so you can enjoy this, and then I will let you use your skills as a turn reporter on the NTT IndyCar radio network to describe the action for those that are not here in person. You look very satisfied after one bite.
First off, like what's the word I'm looking for here? It is very tender. The meat on this very tender. But it's a hot dog. It's basically a Coney that has a sweetened chili sauce on it, and then a queso that creates kind of the combo mixture.
Oh, that's tremendous. Are you familiar with the movie Galaxy Quest? That movie that has Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, the late Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub. Have you seen the movie?
No.
Okay. It's a really funny movie. Kind of a sneaky good movie. Justin Long is in that movie as well. But Sam Rockwell is in that movie. And he actually plays, it was the old joke about Star Trek, how you saw somebody in a red shirt. That dude's getting shot at some point in time.
Right.
Crewman number 6 is going to be killed, whatever the alien is this week, all right? Well, he played basically an extra, and to not spoil the movie, ends up getting to play a much bigger role in the movie than maybe was originally cast, because the movie's kind of a parody of Star Trek, basically, is what it is. But it's really a good movie. Anyway, he would every once in a while he just kind of say, "I'm just psyched to be on the show." That's the way that I feel getting to eat this. And if I keep telling long stories, Jake's going to eat this entire hot dog.
Really good.
Because I'm trying to talk in story arcs that allows him to take a bite. And wisely, like he would be like in an IndyCar race, be like, okay, I need to kind of power through this and get some food. We have a 2-minute and 15-second commercial break. I have to eat as much as I can before they throw it back to me and on turn number 3. Did I give you enough time?
Yes.
Can I eat now? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Indiana, Ohio State, Big Ten championship game. Going to be a huge weekend downtown because you also have the Indiana basketball team. To clear the palate. The Indiana basketball team taking on Louisville, 2 o'clock, Cambridge Fieldhouse on Saturday. So, football, basketball, doubleheader. But that's not the only sports taking place when it comes to Central Indiana, and in particular for those within the umbrella of Indiana University. I'm talking about our Jags report. Women's hoops, men's hoops. Huge event coming up celebrating the city itself at the end of the week. We will get to all of that. We'll let you know about all of it, and we'll do it when we return to Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water here with our Jags report up next. Query and Schultz, you're watching it on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey and Wood.
Look what I have here, Greg.
Hey,
Look what I have here.
it's
back.
Jaws or Jinx or Jazzy. I am not the I've done so much in the way of IUPUI now, IU Indy Athletics over the years. You would think I would have all three of those different mascots completely
This
down
mascot's
cold.
awesome.
Kristen Hazley of our ISC staff is the IUPUI/IU Indy mascot expert because she played there. And so I was able to do a broadcast with her. In fact, the men's highlights that we will show coming up in a moment, she filled in for Bob Lovell, and she was spectacular. And I let her give chapter and verse coming out of break as to the lineage of Jaguar mascots since that move was made from the Metros back in 1998.
Well, listen, the move is being made right now in terms of men's basketball, women's basketball for IU Indy. Again, you can see Division I college basketball right here in downtown Indianapolis at the Jungle. We're talking about IU Indy and a fast style of play with the men, and one that on coming up December the 11th, right?
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, it is the City Edition night for IU Indy.
Correct. These are one-time only jerseys. I have had a peek at them. I thought I was going to be able to get one for today's show. Apparently that is not the case. And as I say it out loud, so the Jaguars are actually at home on Saturday afternoon against Youngstown State. 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Bob Lovell joins me for that one. I'll have the call of that game. Next week on the show, you will have the jersey here.
Love it.
So literally, you could either put it on display, you could wear it. You can't just spill, though, whatever you would eat.
That's right.
Because it has to go back for the game on Thursday. So next Thursday night, game against Doug Gottlieb in Green Bay. 6:30 is the start time. Game can be seen on MyNDTV 23. City Edition uniforms and an Ed Carpenter Racing show car will be on display that night at the Jungle as well.
Now, the men's basketball team will be in that game coming off of a game where they've got Detroit Mercy, but they are coming into that game off of a win, right, Greg?
Correct. 85-80 was the win against Morehead State on Saturday afternoon. Third win of the season, second Division I win. Other was against Eastern Michigan, whom Butler played last night. Kyler DeAugustino had 25 points to lead the way for IU Indy. Micah Davis had 24 points, including a career-high 6 threes, 6 assists, 5 steals, and 4 rebounds. It was a day where the system, as Ben Howell likes to call it, was on display, especially in the second half. Kind of a sluggish first half from both teams. Halftime score was 33-30. Jaguars actually pushed the lead to 65-49 at one point against Morehead
Do you
State.
get the impression they're kind of starting to figure out this system because it is a different style of play?
And then that play right there signifies it. So McGuire Mitchell, freshman from Zionsville, makes a steal. And what does he do? He gets the ball at the elbow, doesn't look to lay it up, gets to the three-point line and fires and scores. Micah Davis, see the threes that he is making. Again, off a fast break, he has one. The other thing that you might notice of this group, notice which way they are shooting the ball, Jake. Almost all left-handed.
Yeah.
We think that the Jaguars lead Division I in left-handed players.
Really?
7 lefties on the IU Indy roster.
Do you remember at Union Station they used to have a store called Left On? It was nothing but stuff for left-handed people.
Did they really?
Yeah. It went out of business, though, because left-handed people only need to buy stuff so many times, right?
True. Yeah.
Once you're like, okay, I have my left-handed ink pen.
So it's left-handed scissors, and then what?
Exactly, right?
Golf clubs?
I think maybe fountain pen. You know, people that write left-handed, if they write with a fountain pen, it's a problem because you're writing back over what your hand's going over what you just wrote.
When we would do field trips to Indianapolis, I mean, we would try to stop by Union Station. Like the 2 memories I have of going to Union Station, other than it's just where you like spent time to kill time between like sessions of the state finals and things like that.
Right.
My high school choir sang there in the fall of '91, my sophomore year. I remember singing at Union Station. And then secondarily, I guess I have 3 memories. After finishing my first semester of college at U Indy, got rip-roaringly drunk at Hooters to celebrate that night. 31 years
Was your
ago.
sophomore year in high school?
The freshman year of college.
Okay.
Right, which I wasn't legal there either. Also, I knew the guy that was like the band leader at Rick's Cafe, the one that overlooked what would have been Capitol, I suppose,
Okay.
at the time. Would get drunk there when I was 18 all the time, too.
So basically, you were like the Colts kicker. You were a groupie.
Or I think I'd go with the Vanderjet and be liquored up idiot. I thought that was the direction you were going with that. And I saw Blue Oyster Cult there New Year's Eve of '94.
Well, that's kind of cool.
That was a good show.
Mike
again,
Damone sold tickets for that.
amazing how this works. Like most venues, you get a wristband, over 21, under 21. As I am walking in, guess who found an over 21
Those
wristband?
are easily interchangeable, by the way. By the way, women's basketball. Women's basketball for IU Indy getting a win over Anderson on Wednesday of Thanksgiving week. Jags, one of the most complete performances of the season, Greg, for the women's basketball.
Nevaeh Foster, 22 points. Nevaeh from Mishawaka-Marion. Cameron Mills, 19 from Lawrence North, who transferred in from Queens in North Carolina. The challenge will get tougher for the IU Indy women's basketball team. Of all the sports in the Horizon League, I think women's basketball is the best sport in the league. There are 3 probably top 100 level teams in terms of the national rankings. Green Bay is outstanding every year.
Yep.
Cleveland State has been really good for the last several years. Purdue-Fort Wayne's record may not be impressive, but Purdue-Fort Wayne made the conference championship game last year, and they beat Purdue a couple of weeks ago. Now, Purdue is struggling. Still a great win for Fort Wayne, led by former Butler alum Maria Marquesano. So Purdue-Fort Wayne is the opponent coming up tonight. So literally as the show is being shown, the game is happening this evening. They play Green Bay next week. So, again, the women's basketball team will learn exactly kind of where they are with Kate Bruce. In watching them play and talking with Kate, they're not a great shooting team this year, but they're a really good defensive team.
Now, from the men's side, let's get to it one more time in terms of – and women's, Greg. People's chance to come out to the jungle to see these teams play. Again, we're talking about Division I athletics right here, Central Indiana. You can always get your ticket information at IUJags.com/tickets.
IUIndyJags.com/tickets.
I had it. IUIndyJags.com/tickets.
And again,
IUIndyJags.com/tickets.
Full schedule online, and we're at the point of the year now where you play 2 or 3 conference games kind of mid-December, sneak in 1 or 2 more non-conference games before Christmas. Once you come back from Christmas, it's nothing but Horizon League games. 17, 18 games left to go before we get to the Horizon League tournament, which we're always a part of in terms of the Corteva Coliseum. This year, the tournament format's slightly different. They will bring 5 teams to Indianapolis instead of 4. So it's 3 days of basketball action at the Corteva Coliseum. But again, we'll worry about that when we get into the new year to come see the Jaguars in action.
IUIndyJags.com/tickets.
And I'm pretty much at every home game. But I believe that Query and Schultz will make an official appearance next Thursday on the show, correct?
Yes. And you know what? I would love – I want to get everybody out for the City Edition game. Right?
And the crowd on Saturday, given the weather forecast, that pocket of dry air helped us a little bit in terms of pushing the snow back to Saturday night. It was probably about half full, which I was pleasantly surprised about on Thanksgiving weekend. And the style in which the men's team plays, that is, I wouldn't say so up and down in terms of emotionally, but in terms of pace, you get a steal and a 3, that place got loud quickly. So it's a wonderful environment because literally the worst seat in the building, you're 11 rows off the floor. You will get absolute bang for your buck when you come watch an IU Indy Jaguar.
By the way, when it comes to bang for your buck, you get the same from Chateau Kitchens, no matter what job you need done within your house. Derek is proof of this, whether it be your kitchen that you need redone, whether you need showers that need to be redone. They have before and after pictures on their Facebook page of their kitchen. It goes without saying. I know everything there is to know now about kitchens and splash guards and the whole deal and tiling and all of that because we just overwent all of that as well. Chateau Kitchens is the very best, and they bring us our Buy It or Bowl Schultz, which we will do next. Each one of us comes up with a saying. The other one says whether we buy it, we consider it Bull Schultz. We'll do that, and we have our quick hits to get to as well. Bailey & Wood is the presenting sponsor. You're watching Query and Schultz. You're watching it on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network from Hoagies, Hops, and Chili Water at 42nd
Second
and Boulevard.
Yep.
My name is Jake Ware. That's Greg Rakestraw. Derek Schultz back with us next week. It is time for our Chateau Kitchens Buy It or Bull Schultz. It is very simple. We in Chateau Kitchens, the very best.
That's not going to fit over your headset, by the way, just as a heads up.
Sure it will. It'll make it work.
Probably not. No.
We'll try. Hold on.
You want me to talk? So thanks to our friends at Chateau Kitchens. Again, and it's not just kitchens. Any sort of remodeling in your house, you do not have to take a picture coming out of the shower the way that Derek Schultz would to enjoy the great folks at Chateau Kitchens. In fact, Jake would appreciate if you don't.
Please don't show the picture. Okay, here's how it works. We make a statement. The other one says, buy it or Bull Schultz. I can begin or you can begin, Greg?
Please begin.
All right, here's my statement for
Yes.
you. Okay. The Indianapolis Colts will still host a playoff game in this year's upcoming NFL playoffs. Buy it or Bull Schultz?
Bull Schultz. I think they will make the playoffs. I think they will lose the division. I think Houston and Jacksonville are playing too good. And the word that I keep coming back to with the Colts is compromised right now. This is not the full-strength offense. So I hope you're right. I sadly think you might be Bull Schultzing on this one.
Okay, how about this? Buy it or Bull Schultz? The Colts have two quarterbacks on the roster right now that will both still be on the roster 1 year from today.
That is, buy it, because Daniel Jones and Riley Leonard will both be back here next year.
Meaning?
Not sure about Anthony Richardson being back here next year.
I'm
not, but to be honest with you, the Colts aren't going to just cut him.
I know.
I'm not sure if there is a market for Anthony Richardson currently in the National Football League.
If Anthony Richardson had not suffered the injury, do you think they would have given him turns of the wheel by now?
Yes. In other words, not as a job share. I think clearly the answer to, hey, quarterback can't run, let's get Anthony Richardson in there for a sneak, given his size, given his athletic ability, given the fact that he could pull the ball and move or fake a throw.
Or would they have had, if Daniel Jones was not hurt and they had games where in the fourth quarter things looked pretty safe, would they put him out there and open the playbook up a little bit to showcase for other teams what is available?
They would have put him out there but not opened the playbook because that's just not what you do late in games. It would have been like the handful of snaps he got earlier this year, just kind of the perfunctory handoff and maybe throw a ball on third down long. Yeah.
It seems like there would still be a market. The injury is such a curveball to it all, right? There would still be a market for him if people saw glimpses of what he could do.
Correct. Then again,
if there were glimpses of what he could do, he would be on the field this year at some point already, right?
Correct. Again, had the injury not had happened, I would have believed we would have seen him in some form or fashion in a limited package the last couple of weeks.
Okay,
really
then how about this? Buy it or Bull Schultz. If the Colts do not make the playoffs this year and therefore have decisions to make about Daniel Jones and whether or not to tag him, sign him long-term, Alec Pierce, etc., the guy that will be making those decisions and seeing them through is Chris Ballard.
Buy it. I think Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are back next year.
I would agree with that as well. All right, Greg, you got one?
Buy it or Bull Schultz. The Indiana Hoosiers, after Saturday, will not be playing again until New Year's Eve or New Year's Day.
I buy that. I think the only thing that could prohibit that would be if they get beat like 56-0, and I don't think that's going to happen. I do think – I said that I think that Indiana will not win the Big Ten championship game. I think it's going to be a game. I mean, if I'm putting all the bravado and all the show character and all that aside, okay, and I'd like to think I'm usually pretty genuine on here, I think the Indiana-Ohio State Big Ten championship game is going to look very similar to the Ohio State-Michigan game. I think Indiana will probably maybe get an early lead, hang around, look in it in the at half, and be tantalizingly within a score or two for the better part of the game, but Ohio State is able to just hold that at bay and win the game.
Buy it or Bull Schultz. Notre Dame will make the college football playoff.
Buy it, 100%.
They're in?
I think they're in.
No way that Miami jumps them, even though they beat them in week number 1.
I forget this. Does Miami have a game left?
No, they are not in the conference championship game. Yeah.
If Notre Dame is ahead of Miami right now, then how do you change it?
It's
they're both done. They're both sitting
quick,
there.
Name the ACC championship game.
Okay.
Can you?
Yeah, let me think on this. I know it's not Clemson.
Okay.
Virginia?
That is correct.
This is where it gets tricky.
The other team is one of the more stupefying that's why we don't talk about the ACC. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Are they a better basketball or football school?
They are a better basketball school. They have a prominent alum that we have talked about extensively on the show.
Duke.
There you go. 7-5 Duke is in the ACC championship game.
That is crazy.
And if SMU had not lost, it would have been Virginia and SMU.
Yeah. I mean, a year ago it was Clemson and SMU, right?
Correct. But yeah.
And then who's the non-power that gets in? Is it going to be Tulane?
It's the winner. Tulane and North Texas are playing each other in the American Athletic Conference championship game, with both coaches already having committed to other jobs.
Let's go.
So there was a
Wait, North Texas is the Mean Green, right?
They're correct. There's
And then
apparently a
Tulane's
scenario.
Green Wave, right?
Green Wave, yes.
Green means go. Let's
right.
go.
This is the best that Ralph Nader's party has ever done in any national competition whatsoever.
That's right.
But there is a scenario, and I think it's very far-fetched, where if Virginia wins the ACC championship, in theory you could have 2 group of 5 schools, because Virginia might be the 6th highest rated conference champ and not the 5th. The wording is the top 5 conference champs get a guaranteed seat at the table. Well, that would be Power 4 and a group of 5. But if the ACC is 6th, I do think there's a scenario at play where potentially the ACC is left out of the playoff completely.
I mean,
and given how bad Clemson and Florida State have been,
they've had plenty of opportunity to grab it.
Right.
Nobody has, right?
All right, one final biter, Bull Schultz, and I found myself, I'll be honest with you, Jake, if it's not Purdue, who easily bested Rutgers last night in their Big Ten opener, and I need to give more time to Indiana in hoops. Football's been so good, it's been hard to really kind of lock in and go, hey, hoops team appears to be pretty good as well. But I found myself watching more national college basketball because I knew 2 of the participants in the game. They played each other last night.
Braylon Mullins and
Flory Badunga.
Yep.
I probably have covered, we at ISC have probably covered combined 30 of their games the last 3 years. And the tie to our friends at IU Indy, Braylon's dad, Josh, was a fantastic player at IUPUI. So I have known Braylon's family longer than Braylon has been alive. So I'm like, my reminder to watch the game last night was looking at Josh's Facebook page, and he shows a picture from Fog Allen Fieldhouse.
And Braylon Mullins was hurt, right?
Yeah, but
he had 17.
Had 17 and 5 last night in his second game back, and is on the floor at the end of games and making 2 huge free throws to clinch it. And I'm giddy watching it. Who has the better NBA career, Flory Badunga or Braylon Mullins?
Mullins.
Yeah. I think Flory will make the NBA. It's funny though.
I do, but I think you know who I think. I think Flory Badunga in the NBA has an Oscar Tshiebwe type career.
Yes, because he's limited offensively.
Correct.
But I will tell you, John Peckinpah, who again now is an assistant coach at IU Indy, was his head coach at Kokomo. When I asked him to compare him to somebody, and normally Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, to Peck's credit, the guy that he said was Clint Capella. In other words, where this is the function you serve as an NBA player. You know what that gets you? About 12 years, about $150 million in your career.
Tony Bradley.
That's what it gets you.
Tony Bradley.
Exactly.
Right? Come in, give me 8 to 12 minutes of 4 or 5 boards and a couple of defensive stops. I'm more interested in the NBA draft this year than in a long time. A, because the Pacers are clearly going to have a high pick. Yep. And B, I'm wanting to see how high up Braylon Mullins goes. I think he goes after this year, right?
I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, even with the money, and I don't know what he's making at UConn. I'm sure he's making great money at UConn. You're going to make better money in the NBA. I think he's one and done, and he is in the association next year.
Yeah, I would agree.
From ISC to the NBA, that's what you can do with ISC Sports Network.
That's exactly right. All right, we'll come back. A couple of quick hits, and we'll put a tie on all of it here on this Wednesday. Feels like a Tuesday because of Mother Nature edition. Query and Schultz on ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey and Wood.
All right, our quick hit, IU Indy Jags on the 11th City Edition. We hope to see you there. Derek will be back next week. Greg, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We'll see everybody next week. Thanks for watching on ISC Sports Network.
Thanks, Hoagies and Hops. Thanks, crew.